I don't really have a memory of not drinking. I don't think I have a memory at all. Far back as I can remember of, I have glimpses of memories of being really young, you know, like, oh, I have no idea why I have memories of having, uh, still having diapers. Um, but maybe it was just for being in the car. I have no idea. But I remember, back in that time, um, I was drinking then. You know, it was, if there was, and I don't know if I was doing it because I knew I was drinking. I, I see kids nowadays, you know, kids will grab something off the counter and just drink it. And I think maybe it was just that that's what was on the counter, you know. But I have memories of doing that. Um, have, so I've always had some kind of substance in my life, and I don't have a memory of not having that. Growing up, uh, I was just telling my boys that, oh, my uncle was mentioned, and I thought I have to, uh, I had to when I had to talk to him and try to make an amends with him for. I seen some beatings he took. I seen him take some beatings, and I mentioned it to him, and I said, and I told him, I said, I need to make it right with you. And he's looking at me, and he says, there's no way that was you stealing that alcohol from my grandparents. But he got blamed for it, and he don't even drink. But I'd seen him get blamed for it, and I'd seen him take some beatings for it, and I tried to make amends for that. Um, he said, "You were too young. You're too young," and I said, "Yeah, but as I got older, I seen it still happening, and I always wanted to know why you never told on me or mentioned it to me." He says, "Because I didn't know that it was you." He said, "I thought it was your mom, and I didn't want to get beating from dad and my older sister." And uh, them kind of things that I remember growing up, taking stealing alcohol from home. But that one was something just recent that me and my boys talked about because somebody brought him up, and he's dead and gone now. But I talked to him about that. Um, when I was 14, I went on the paddle that that year. Canoe journeys. Went on the paddle. We stopped in Hollywood Beach and went to Cactus Jack's. It was a arcade downtown. We went to Cactus Jack's and ran into somebody there, and he pulls out this bottle of vodka. Want some? Yeah. And so we bought these Pepsi Frees, and Pepsi Free looked just like a bottle of water, and they were clear. They're Pepsi Clear. So anyway, we bought some Pepsi Clears and poured them out and filled them full of vodka. But I'm pretty sure the guy that was working there at Cactus Jack's, I'm pretty sure he figured it out because I left there. Down the street, started heading up the block towards the Gulf. And I don't even know what that gas station is now. But anyway, this complete stranger who I don't know, police officer, he's driving by this way. And I'm just walking down the street, and he turns around, checks to see if my life is unmanageable. He thinks maybe somebody else should manage my life. And he was right. Took me to jail. And that was the beginning of this was 1989. That was the beginning of my treatment in jail. It was in 1989 from that incident there. But for whatever reason, they didn't give me the right information at treatment. There's that human power that they had wasn't sufficient enough to fix the spiritual malady that I had then. Because I would go to treatment and get out of treatment and get drunk and get in more trouble, go back to jail, and they'd let me out to go to treatment. They'd say, "You want to go? We'll let you out if you want to go to treatment." And I'd go to treatment, and I lived that cycle of treatment, jail, get out for a day or two, treatment, jail. I lived that cycle for years. I mean, that went on for quite some time, and I'd come across moments in treatment where my mind was clear enough and the stuff was out of my system, and that I could hear what they're trying to sell me, and I really wanted it. Because I didn't like the life that I had. I didn't like I didn't like going to jail. I sure didn't like going to treatment, and I didn't like getting in trouble. I didn't like hurting my family and whatever else it was that I was doing that would cause me to end up in jail or in treatment. So I would have moments that I believed I could have what they were trying to give me or trying to sell me. I wanted it. I wanted that other life. I would have moments where I really wanted it. And there I had also had moments where I believed that I had it. I had moments where I believed that I had it while I was locked up, of course. I'd get out and realize I didn't have it at all, because every time I would get loaded the first day that I'm out, I didn't have what it took to stay sober at any length of days, let alone one. But I remember wanting it. And not only that, I remember thinking I had it. I just felt like I had that for a moment, I had, I gained some sobriety. I don't know if that's the right word. I gained some sobriety, or I gained some dry time. I went to pick my wife up from work, and I always wondered why my wife didn't, that my drinking, it never seemed to visibly bother her. She was like the only person in my life that didn't bother her that I drank, which made me really like her. I really liked her, because everybody else in my family, everybody else that I knew, at some point would say something to me about partying or drinking, whatever it was I was doing. Somebody would say something to me about it, but she never once treated me like that was a concern of hers. And she worked at the clinic, and I had to pick her. She called me and asked me if I could pick her up from work, and I'm thinking, you live a half a block away, you work a half a block away from where we live, you know, what do you need a ride for? I wanted to tell her, no, I'm drunk. And, but I didn't. I thought, well, I'll go pick her up. And I went to pick her up, and the door was locked at the clinic, and the doctor happened to be walking by. And she opened the door and she says, we're closed right now. I said, that's fine. I'm just here to pick up my wife. She says, oh, you're Mindy's husband. I said, yeah, come on in. And we're just getting ready. We're going to go to a meeting. And it would be awesome if you came with us. And then everything in me wants to say, no, that's not in my plan for today. I left my beer sitting on the table. And, but I didn't want to make my wife look bad in front of her boss. So I said, yeah, sure, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, let's do that. And so I waited for them to get ready, and we go to a meeting, an AA meeting. We went to an AA meeting, and I don't hear anything there. I hear stories of things that I do anyway. And I look around the table, and I know that I was drinking with most of the people that was at the table, you know, recently, whether it was last weekend or last week or something, you know. And they all come to the meetings, and they all act like they've been clean for however long they've been on probation. That's they act like they've been clean for however long they've been on probation, and I'm like, no, I know you guys. But I don't say nothing. I don't want to get nobody in trouble. But I can look around the table and see that. I can see that going on in the rooms. So I don't hear nothing really that catches my eye. But there's one guy in the room that I don't know. He's a visitor. At least that's what I thought. He shares. He's from California, and he shares a little bit of what it was like. I related to what it was like, but everybody around the table sharing about what it was like. And I didn't really take note of that, what it was like, because that's what everybody shares. I mean, we can all have a fellowship in the problem. That's pretty common to have fellowship in the problem. And that's what I was hearing, but then he shared some emotion, some feeling, some things that I've never heard shared. And but that was brief. And then he moves on to what happened. He went to a meeting. He got a sponsor, and he went through the steps with his sponsor, and his life had changed. I could see that his life was changed. I don't know how long that I didn't know how long he had sober, but I knew he wasn't like me or the rest of the people in the room. I knew he wasn't like us, and because he had something different about him. He had a different look to him. He had a different something was different, and the something that was different was his God and his sobriety. But anyway, that caught my attention, what it was like. So the man shared what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. That caught my attention. We went to an alkathon that he was chairing until 11 o'clock or midnight. And I sat there with him, and I was able to just one-on-one talk with this guy, because maybe God knew that I needed that. Nobody else showed up to these meetings until he was done chairing. Nobody showed up to Alcathon until this guy was done chairing. Then it was like 11 or 12 o'clock at night. But him and I sat and talked, and I got to unknowingly position myself to be willing, to want more, to be hungry for something different. And maybe it was only because what he brought to the table was something different than what I had seen for years. I'd been going to meetings, self-help meetings since 1989, and this was 2000, somewhere 2000, 2001. And maybe I don't know. It was maybe, I believe it was a combination of things. Him being born, my oldest son being born, and when he was being born, I thought, man, something in my life's got to change. But I didn't know how to do it. I wanted it, but I didn't know how to do that. And this was an opportunity. Something as simple as a man sharing his experience with his addiction and the strength that he got going and meeting God through the steps, and what it's like now. And I got to visit with him and see what it's like now. And he didn't have a whole lot of time, really. I mean, he had 7 years at that time because I had asked him. He's like, "Oh no, I got sober 7 years ago," and then to me that was an eternity. I couldn't get 7 days, but uh, so anyway, there's that was the beginning of change in my life. I'd gotten dry from that experience. It was what he had was enough to get me dry. Uh, I didn't get to meet God yet. I got dry. I was going to meetings. I became really busy. He would bring me to these campouts and like the Salt Creek camp out and Clean and Free at the sea and Ocean Shores, and we'd go to like the whatever goes on over here at the building by the courthouse. They have a big speaker meeting there. He brought me out for that, and it was Clancy I was speaking, and I was pretty excited to go. You know, he talked it up, he built it up, and I was excited to go to my first speaker meeting, and there was hundreds of people there. I mean, that facility was to capacity. And then I seen Clancy, and I thought, I just wasted my money. I wasted my money. I wasted my time. I'm going to get nothing out of this. Clancy has to be 130 years old. What could I possibly have in common with this old man? And and I felt like, well, there goes some money and time. And Clancy started to share, and here's what happened. I was no longer able to see that he was 130 years old and that he was a different race than me or different nationality or whatever you call it. I don't know what you call it. So I didn't think that I would have anything in common with him. But at that meeting, what I found very interesting was the symptoms of addiction are the same no matter what color you are, no matter how old you are. The symptoms are the same. And I recognized that, and I was able to relate to that. And I got at least that out of it. Um, and that man and I had a great time for a while. And I told him one day, I went and visited him. I said, Matt, I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. But I'm going to go back to drinking. He said, what? I said, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for me. I've never experienced what I've gotten to experience hanging out with you. I've never had a clear mind, not being locked up, you know. Um, I want to thank you for that, but I'm going to go back to drinking. He said, sit down, let's talk about this. I said, okay. And I said, here's the thing, Matt. That's not my goal. My goal isn't to go back to drinking, but I haven't been able to find a job. Uh, I quit fishing so I could get sober, and it's the only thing I know how to do. And crab season's coming up. I'm gonna go back to fishing. I'm gonna go get on a crab boat, and I've always worked hard and I've always played hard. So eventually, hanging out with them people on the fishing boat, I'm going to end up back doing what I'm gonna do. And I just want to look you in the eye and tell you thank you for everything that you've done. And he says, you have your notebook with you? I said, I do. He said, write down the pros and cons of going back to fishing. So I did. The pros were I know how to do it, pretty good at it. Um, there was a list of cons. I'm going to go back to drinking. I'm going to lose the life that I've built in that short period of time. Probably lose my wife. He's probably going to be uh, out of my life. That kind of stuff. And I said, well, here it is. I don't I don't know what to do now. He says, well, we're not done. He said, write down the pros and cons of getting a job. So I wrote them down, and I said, well, and it turned out that there were no pros about me finding another job, not where I live. And I said, well, there you go. Looks like I'm going to go back to fishing. He said, we're not done yet. He said, here, write down another list, pros and cons of you going to college and getting an education and getting a career, not just a job. So it turned out that that's what things were going to be like, and I ended up going to college. I spent 5 years going working on that, and um, I gained, and then I uh, did my internship with Peyton's dad at the Clown
Oh, yeah.
Treatment Center there, and became a counselor. Now, Matt just tried to discourage me from that. He didn't want me to be a counselor, and he didn't want me to go down that road. But I told Matt, I said, what I'm experiencing right now, I just have to share this with anybody that I can that's in this position. I want people to know that they don't have to live that way. I want people to know that that you don't have to live in the addiction that you're in, that there's a way out, that there's another way. And I believe that that's an avenue where I can share that with people like me. I was really wrong. I was, I was really, really wrong. Uh, Working in a treatment center, them people hated me. They felt like I was the reason why they didn't have freedom. I'm like, no, your stupid decisions are. uh, so um, I worked at a couple of treatment centers. I got to be the director of a treatment center. I got to build a treatment center, and I got myself 7 years of dry time. Um, I was dry. I was busy, going to meetings. I was going to 3 meetings a day while I'm working at treatment center up here, and I don't even live here. I live in La Push. I would come up early and I'd hit the EMR meeting, and then I would, for lunch, I would take off and I would go to the Queen of Angels, or unless it was a Wednesday, and Wednesday they had women's meeting there, and I would find it. It was somewhere behind the Swains when the women's meeting was there, and then I'd hit a meeting on my way home. Uh, so I was just, I think, just being busy and excited about being not having to drink was keeping me sober or dry or just miserable as could be, just not drinking. Miserable and busy, but I wasn't drinking. Uh, and this guy who I hadn't talked to since I got sober, and it wasn't that I cut him off or nothing like that, is funny when you get sober or when you get dry or when you stop doing what other people are doing, they just stop coming around. But he came over and he asked me if I had a cigarette. I said, no, I haven't smoked in years. And he's like, well, I'm going to go next door and see if Joe's got one. Like, yeah, all right, whatever. And he didn't even come in the house. He was standing at the door talking to me. He said, and he left the bag sitting. He left the bag sitting by my door. And like an hour went by, and I walked by and I look at it, and I went, that guy left his bag. I wonder what's in it. I pick up this bag. There's a bottle of rum in there. Fifth of rum. And I thought, what is rum? I've never had this before, at least not knowingly. I wonder what it smells like. I open it up. Smell it? Finished it. He comes back looking for his bag, and I'm like, I wonder if he's going to notice that thing's empty. Here's the weird thing about that. I'm the director of the treatment center. I'm sponsoring like 20 people. I have an AA meeting that's mine that I started that we're meeting 7 days a week, and there's between 25 to 30, 35 people every day at this meeting. I mean, it's blown up, and we're meeting every day. And it got to the place where we have to come up with different uh, uh, format or topics. What are we gonna do? And anyway, it was exciting, and there was things that they would, and I imagine it was popular because there was some. I was like the rest of them people. I just wasn't drinking on the weekends. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that there was some familiarities there. I just didn't have the drink. I had all the other behaviors. I'm sure I did. I just didn't. I just was not aware of the fact that I was a dry drunk. Um, uh, but it all came crashing down that day. Um, my boss kept asking me if I'm coming to work. I'm like, no. And I'm not coming back. And well, we'll wait for you to get better, and we really need you here. And I'm like, yeah. And he knew. I my boss knew. My boss was my best friend. Him and I spent a lot of time together. And this man frustrated me to no end because he was he was blind. He was blind, and his family left him, and he met me because his son dropped him off with me and said, Dad, all of your family is gone. I'm the only one here. If you don't do something about your addiction, I'm leaving too. And he dropped him off with me. And I worked with him, got him. Here's the funny thing. Through the steps, I got him back in touch with God because he already knew God. But I got him back in touch with God. I didn't know God. I had no idea who God was. But this man introduced me to God. This man introduced me to God. he would ask me to drive him somewhere every day. And while I would bring him places, he would tell me about what he was reading in the Bible, what was going on at his church, what Sunday service was about, what he was teaching on Wednesday service and Sunday school, and he would tell me about this stuff, and I didn't want to hear it. And one day, he asked me to bring him up here to get a haircut. There's barbers in Forks, but for whatever reason, he liked the barber up here, and I'd drive him up here to get. It was weird, like, dude, you can't. You're blind. What do you care what your hair looks like? But he did. uh, and he's talking to me about the Bible all the way up here, talking to me about God all the way home. I'm at Beaver, and I can't take it any longer. I want to tell this man, please, we can talk about anything else. Just stop talking to me about God. And I was waiting for him to stop talking so I could get a word in edgewise, and it just hit me. I can't say nothing to him. I can't tell him that he can't talk to me about God because that's what helped him get clean. And whatever it was that helps somebody have a better life, I can't take it from them. So I thought, well, I just got to sit here and listen to this. But anyway, this went on for years. And here's where that comes important. While I'm back out using after the rum at my door, I went full on back into my addiction, harder than I was going before I stopped. I mean, harder, 7 times harder than I was going before I stopped. I mean, I was not only was I drinking, but I'm using drugs I said I'd never use. I'm doing things I would never even crossed my mind to do. I went in both feet as deep and as hard as I could. And I don't believe I drove a sober day at all during this period of time. I almost had a sober day. I almost had a sober day where I don't know how I got home. Somehow I woke up at my house. I wake up at my house. It's a beautiful summer day. And I wake up there and I'm looking around, and here's what woke me up: detox. The pain of detox woke me up. I couldn't walk down my hallway. I'm dragging myself along the wall, and I get to the kitchen. I'm looking out the window, and I'm like, it is a beautiful day outside. It's like 10 in the morning. And I look out, and my car's home, and I'm thinking, man, I hope I didn't drive home. I hope I didn't drive here. And but I feel the detox hitting me, and I've been through it, and it's not fun. So I'm frantically searching my house like an idiot because I don't drink or use at my house. But I'm searching anyway for something, anything, I don't care what it is. And finally, I'm sitting on my back porch thinking, I got to ride this out. I want to, but I got no other choice. I'll ride it out until Willie gets off work. And I'll get a hold of Willie somehow. Maybe send you over there. Because Willie's always got beer in his truck. I just got to ride this out till Willie gets off work. It's like 11 o'clock now. And I'm sitting there defeated. And I look between my generator and my lawnmower. And rings in my head really loud. Anything that ends in an all has alcohol in it. I bet you that gas has ethanol in it.
Oh my God.
So I go in the house and I grab me a glass, whiskey glass, and for half a second, I thought, I wonder if I have soda. And I'm like, no, I don't like mixed drinks. So I fill that glass full of gasoline and I just take it down. Took care of the DTs, blacked me out, knocked me out. And that, I wish I could tell you that was a one time thing, but that became a habit. It became a habit to drink gasoline. And here's the thing: is it never hit it would it was a flip of the coin, heads or tails, how I was going to react. Either it was going to knock me out, or I would get violently sick. I mean, sick that you can't stop it. There's nothing you can do to stop throwing up. I mean, just sick. I can't stop throwing up. I remember one day, it's about 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and uh, I'm drinking this stuff. I throw up all over myself. So I take my clothes off and I can't stop throwing up. And I'm throwing up on the house and I don't want to do that. So I go out on the porch and I realize I'm naked. And the reason I realize it, my neighbor across the street, she's watching me naked on the porch. And I could see her out of the corner of my eye. I can see her watching me throw up naked on the porch. So I got to the place after that. If I was going to drink gasoline, I'm going to get in the tub and I'm going to be naked already and just sit. No water in the tub. I just want to have a place that if I'm going to get sick, I'm not going to make a mess everywhere. And I would sit in there and hear people think this is the weirdest part, but it's not. I have I have my table in there with my cigarettes because I smoked. And they're like, "You smoke while you're drinking gasoline?" I'm like, other kind of liquor is flammable too. Why is that weird? You know, you ever try lighting 151 on fire? Other liquor is flammable too. So maybe I'm just trying to make myself feel better about it. And I know I'm an idiot, but I couldn't fight a craving. I had no ability to fight a craving. I could not fight a craving to save my life. Um, so the things that Jack was telling me, I find myself, you guys know this part of my story, so I'm just gonna skim over the top of it. Uh, one of, I found myself upset with somebody, and I couldn't get rid of it. I could not get rid of this uh, resentment that I had. I could not get rid of it. So much so, I would argue with myself. I parked down the road of this from this guy's house and I would argue with myself, I don't want to do this. But inside of me something says I have to do this. Yeah, but I don't want to do this. But I have to do it. I don't want to. So I would sit down the street and wait for this guy to go to sleep because I had to make myself feel better by hurting this guy. But I didn't want to. So I would sit there, and this guy could stay up later than me. So I'd sit there until I got tired and I leave. And then one day I'm sitting there, and something Jack told me is standing out now because I don't want to do this. I don't know if anybody's ever felt like that before. Like, I don't want to do what I'm doing. I really don't want to do this. Yeah, uh, and for whatever reason, it was loud, uh, Jack's loud voice in my head. If you have a resentment you can't get rid of, pray about it. Good things for that person, things you'd want for yourself. So I'm praying for this guy, just random stuff, and I'm praying for him anyway. But here's the cool thing, it would be enough for me to drive away and go home. It would be enough for me to just go home. And one day I'm doing this, I start praying for this guy. And the prayer uh, normally for him is really long. But this time the prayer for him is very brief, and it turns out that I'm praying to God for myself that turns out really long. Like, God, I want this stuff for I want peace that I'm asking for him. I want I want freedom, especially in here, because I'm a prisoner in my mind. And I want these things that I'm asking for this guy, and I end up uh, uh, driving away and parking in my yard, getting my neighbor's attention. My neighbor knocks on my window. Why are you parked in your yard? I didn't realize I was parked in my yard. And he says, "You want to go to the bar?" Yes. And we go to the bar. Guess who's standing behind me? This dude. I've been waiting for him to go to sleep. No wonder his lights stay on all night. He's not even home. He's standing behind me while I'm waiting in line to get a pitcher of beer. And I turn around and I look at him this way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I turn around and I look at him and I said, "You got a minute? Can we talk?" "Yeah, let me grab a beer first." "I have a pitcher. Let's share it and have a conversation. When we're done, you come get your own beer." "Yeah, okay, we can do that." And we sit down and I tell him I understand that uh, he's in a position he doesn't want to be in. And I tell him, I understand that you don't know that I'm upset with you. But I need to talk to you because I want you to forgive me for the way that I've been feeling towards you. And I know you don't know how I've been feeling towards you, but I need you to forgive me for the way that I've been feeling towards you. And um, he says, yeah, stands up. We hug each other for some weird reason. I don't know. We stand up, we hug each other, we go our own ways. Close the bar down. I go to after hours party. I do things that I'd never thought of doing ever in my life, but I do them. And um, when I finally passed out, when I woke up, did I mention that I gave my will and my life to God in
No,
that
you
car?
missed it.
I missed it. I gave my will and my life to God in the car before my neighbor knocked on the window. I said, "God, I want to give you my will and my life. As far as I know, my will is my way of thinking, and my life is nothing more than a series of actions based off the way that I think. In exchange for your will, and as far as I know, your will and your written word, the Bible that Jack had given me, are one and the same. And whatever life you have planned for me." So I did that. I gave God my will and my life. And what's weird is right after that, My neighbor knocks on my window, and we go to the bar, and I go to after hours party, and I do things that I never done in my life. But when
I noticed in between there, that might be the reason for the weird hug. What?
yeah, absolutely, because as I forgave that man, he forgave me. Right? What's the Lord's Prayer?
Forgive us our trespasses.
Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespassed against us. As I forgave those who trespassed against me, he, he, he forgave me. And I know he forgave me because when I woke up, the craving that ran every part of my life was gone. The craving was gone. The mental obsession was gone. My life has been changed and it's never been the same since that day. God gave me a new life, made a new creation out of me. He's given me a brand new start. So much so, it's as if I'd never done that before. It's as if I'd never been an addict before. It's as if I'd never been a drunk before. Those things, they don't mean they don't grab my attention anymore. It's as if I'd never done it. I can't crave something I've never done. You ever have a craving for doing something you never done? You ever, I was gonna say, you ever crave eating dirt, but you probably have done it. But you know what I mean? It was just taken away. And God has given me a different life. And I've not like I made a deal with him and I've stuck to what I said I was gonna do, but I have been doing what I've said I was gonna do. God, I want to give you my will in my life in exchange for your will and the life that you've gotten for me. And God's allowed me to do some pretty awesome things and meet some pretty awesome people like the people in this room. I love you guys, every one of you. I consider you my closest friends. Anyway, I'm sure there's more, but that's it for now.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, Jane.
Yeah, they are. But I didn't want people to think I didn't drive a Power Stroke.
Those guys don't cry.
Nope. Thought I drove here in a Dodge or something.
I have a question.
Any question?
Um, have you, I mean, obviously your wife probably knows that you're sober now. Like, have you guys ever talked about it? Has she ever told you why it didn't bother her?
Can't talk. She had an aneurysm and she can't talk and half of her body's paralyzed. She can't walk either. His mom. Yeah. She's in an assisted living home.
Oh, okay.
But I never did ask her. But I kind of put it together that she had the freedom of the program because the doctor there that brought us to the meeting was her sponsor. She was she was living this life beautifully. To see her walk around in a recovery rooms was amazing. And after I got clean, I always thought, man, I wish I could have half of what she has. The way that she could move people and talk and things like that and attract people to want to be sober. She had something that was pretty awesome. I'd never seen it before. I wish hopefully before I die, I get to have half of what she was able to accomplish in these rooms. Like me though, it was short lived. It was right after I went. She went back out in the world.
Or did she?
She she's she seems happy now though, sober. I've never seen her so happy actually. She's pretty happy.
I think what sticks out to me right now, because at different points in time, different things in the same story, and I've heard parts of your life as you share around tables like this at this meeting, and others I've heard you share some of these things, and what sticks out the most to me, because I guess what's been going on, things that God's been showing me lately, is the part where, which I said, maybe that's the reason for what you called the weird hug. It occurs to me that though it was highly possible that you could have ended up drinking more that night, it wasn't in your plan to do so. You'd made it where you was. You'd already drank, obviously, and you'd parked in your yard. So I don't know how to word this exactly the way I feel about what happened, but I'll do my best. I feel like that God knows our hearts, He knows our minds, He knows what we're capable of, right? So if God, you give your will to God in the car, and there's something that He knows, whether you know it or not, He knows needs to happen for the very next thing. Though it wasn't in your plan, God could use your willingness where you were still at, because He needed this to get you to a bar. Now, this sounds weird because there would be some churchy people somewhere who would think, now, hold on. But seriously, in the whole seriousness, if you're already drunk, and I know God reaches into intoxicated minds, not one time, not only to you, He's done it to me, and I've heard He's done it to you. And I'm sure He's done it to more than the people at this table. But it's just, when you hear of those times, it seems a little bit more amazing than the times He will grab somebody that might be sitting in one of the fact that He can go into that cloud, and it ain't just that it's askew from substance, all the hate and all the stuff that's in there, and He can reach in there and use the willingness available. What if your only willingness was, I'll drink a little bit more right now? But He could use that to get you to the place where the guy was, the thing that needed to happen that was blocking you, maybe more than anything that we could think of to say. He could use that to get that interaction. Mm-hmm. He probably wouldn't surprise me if He didn't give you the words to tell that man while you're sitting there. He already put the man there. He put you there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that sticks out to me because because of what God's been showing me about what gets in the way. Right then, you going to the bar was not getting in the way of his working.
Not even a little bit.
So actually, it played into, and it's amazing to me that that happens, and it really does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing things like that shows me how many times and how much that people will put limits on what God can do, is willing to do, is capable of doing, and through what to do so. And people want to do that. But in that part of the story, I heard that God used what was available that Gene supplied, and God knew Gene inside and out, and used that to line up the situation that was needed for you to have that experience, so that you could forgive the man, thus be forgiven. And a lot of times people think they know. They would call that a defect of character going to the bar, we'll say, or a shortcoming, maybe in some circles. But it's weird that if God has a plan, and He's the only one that would know what to call that at that time. Like I said, it's hard for me to put in words the things He's been showing me. Has to do with He knows what the shortcoming is, and if it ain't blocking Him, it ain't a shortcoming. Just because it bothers somebody around here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a defect of character if it's in His plan and it works out for the greater good of humanity. This thing. At least that's what I gathered from the story you just told.
Absolutely. Good gathering. There was a touch when that guy knocked on my window. There was just a little bit of me that didn't want to go. There was I had just poured my heart out to God and given my life to Him. And I felt like this dirty devil showed up at my window, knowing I can't say no.
I mean, you could.
But God knew I couldn't say no either, no matter how I felt about it. I
Right.
didn't want to, but I was already drunk. I was high on whatever I could get that day. Probably cocaine, which is something that I think smelled really good when I was in that area. Uh, yeah, no, God allowed the step process to work in that day, that amount of time, and that, what is that, 9? Where I was able to go to that guy and work out that, except going to do so would injure them or others. But I went right in there. And didn't know. No, if somebody had told me that dude was there, wouldn't have went. And if I would have seen him, probably things would have been different. But he's standing right behind me.
It was meant to be.
Absolutely. God, he's able to use messy people. I'm pretty messy. thinking you should ask somebody else.
You're looking at me.
You got the interesting stories.
Me?
No,
Oh, I was gonna say.
I'm sure you got more.
What's it like now?
Now, now is I have to figure out how to phrase this because I don't want to phrase it in a way that I know anything can be taken out of context, but I don't want to phrase it in a way that it's uh, God and I spend a lot of time together now. We spend a lot of time together. Um, I um, um, I believe that um, I believe that whatever it is that I'm listening to or paying attention to um, is the only thing that I have in my head that I can think about. I believe my thoughts come from whatever it is I'm listening to or paying attention to, watching or whatever. And um, I believe my thoughts come from that. And I also believe that my life is nothing more than a series of actions based off of what I'm thinking about. And things that were difficult for me in life, like um, trying to be a good person, trying to trying to do the right thing, trying to behave. I didn't have what it took to behave. I just couldn't stay out of jail. I didn't know how to stay out of trouble. It seemed that that's just what my life was. It was just trouble continuously. Now, um, uh, I spend a lot of time with God, and I say that. Uh, but here's what I do. My phone is amazing. I have Bible on my phone. I have podcasts. I have um, Big Book on my phone. But I listen to that all the time. Uh, when I go to bed, I turn the Bible on. So when I was drinking and using, for whatever reason, I couldn't sleep without the TV on. I would fall asleep with the TV on all the time. And I don't know that everybody does that, but I did that. I would fall asleep with the TV on. I needed some kind of noise. Um, Now, uh, living a different life, hopefully the life that Jesus died for, I listen to the Bible when I go to sleep. I turn the Bible on and I listen to it. And when I wake up, it's still playing, usually. It's usually still playing. And man, what an amazing morning I have when I'm listening to that when I wake up. Because I've noticed that I don't just snap awake, that I slowly start to wake up. But I can hear that, and I have questions, and I ask questions, and I get answers, and there's some pretty cool answers. But um, throughout my day, there's some kind of word or worship music on, which allows me to, it allows me to have the series of actions that turn out to be my life based off the way that I think line up with the cool things that I listen to now and pay attention to. So my life lines up with, starts to reflect Jesus. And not because I want it to, not because I tried, and like I mentioned earlier, I always tried to be a good person. I tried to behave. I don't try that anymore. I don't even, it's not even in my head to try to behave or try to be a good person because I don't think that there is a good person. I don't think that there is a way to behave, to behave, to not be a rotten, but because that's what's on my mind, that's what my life reflects. I think that God made me so simple that it doesn't take much for me to complicate that.
Really?
It's like, you will be whatever it is you're listening to. And I'm like, well, that's just way too simple. There's got to be more to it than that.